I am delighted for this Flash Friday Finance Update to be talking to Rebecca Francis. Rebecca, I have known for, probably a dozen years, maybe. And she has been with her husband a long-term and successful property investor, and she is an accountant, and she's now running her own business. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
The whole aim of this podcast today is to talk about how to best prepare yourself to do the best by your accountant so that they can help you and make it easy for you. So first of all, tell us, how did you get into your accounting and your business, and how did that all come about?
I really enjoyed the numbers at school and went straight into university and did my accounting degree, worked in a fairly large accounting firm for quite a number of years, and decided I wanted a bit more of flexibility for my family after I had my 3 children. And I started my firm Alaco White probably around about 4 or 5 years ago now, and have loved doing it ever since.
Oh, super. What do you love about it most? Tell us.
I love working with people and helping people in their businesses. So my main passion, I guess, in my business, in being an accountant, is working with businesses. I do work with all types of tax returns, but I do prefer working with businesses, and I just love helping people to understand their numbers and in a position where they're not getting surprises from the tax office, and they're understanding how their business is going and they're growing their business and being successful.
Oh, awesome. So give us some of your best tips. Well, first of all, tell us what's changed with the ATO this year, because there's been a lot of changes in terms of access to MyGov for people. Can you tell us and highlight some of that for us, please?
Okay, so obviously there's been a huge amount of change happening in the accounting world in the last couple of months with JobKeeper and access to cash flow boost and things like that. In terms of lodging your tax return, things have changed a huge amount with single touch payroll. So anyone that is employed will need to be using a single touch payroll software, which means that anyone that has a job will no longer receive a pay-as-you-go payment summary. They'll now be reporting to the tax office and giving them each week as you get paid, or each month you get paid, the ATO are getting that information and is reported at the end of the year on your income statement. So you will not get a piece of paper like previously, but all the information will be held by the ATO.
And it's very efficient and up to date, isn't it now?
Absolutely. So now the ATO knows how much you're getting paid all the time and how much super you're owed, so that employers are being held accountable for those superannuation payments, as well as the tax that's being withheld from your wage and things like that.
No, that's awesome. And are all businesses obliged to use single touch payroll, or is there a sliding scale? Or I find it fantastic, so I would not use it, but I know a lot of people are in the dark ages. I've got some clients who are still being presented with a check that they have to deposit, which is insane, but there it is.
All employers need to use single touch payroll enabled software. So that could mean that some people are still writing out their expenses and things like that for their accountant at the end of the year. They still need to report their wages on a single touch payroll software throughout the year.
Okay. Oh, is that right? So everyone's obliged to do it.
That's right.
And the other thing I've found over the years is people not getting paid their super, not from, obviously, I'm all over this sort of thing, but I know a lot of clients have found that they not only do they never check their pay slips, which I always ask them to do, because we're, we're looking at making sure people's finances are correct. And secondly, they don't get their super paid because of whatever has happened with that employer. So it's a great thing that if an employer shouldn't be employing people if they can't afford the full, wage and everything, that all your obligations. So it's great to see that they'll be able to track people and make sure they're covered on this,
Absolutely. It really makes everyone accountable now, that everyone's getting paid their obligations.
Yeah, that's great. So what are your best tips for clients to prepare for you to get their return done quickly, or what to make it the process less painful? Because it's seems still a bit onerous, the thought of, completing.
So when getting ready for your tax return, depending on how you receive your income, you need to think about all the sources that you've got income coming in from. So most people will just be thinking about their income statement or their money from their job, but then there might be some bank interest that you need to include. You need to look at if you've got any dividends that you need to include. So you need to collect all your income from all sources.
With that though, can the ATO see those things? Can they see the dividends and can they see the bank interest automatically now?
A lot of that information is reported to the ATO by the bank or the share registry. So it's great that all that information is there, but you need to be on the ball and know what you would be expecting to come through with that information.
Okay, but if you went to MyGov, is it possible you can just see all that automatically?
Yes, so MyGov should show you what information the ATO has about you, and that information will come through to your accountant as well.
Oh, okay, cool. So you automatically get any share registry updates and any dividend and any interest payments?
If those bodies have your information correct. So if they've got tax files recorded and things like that.
So the first year you make sure it's all set up correctly, and then you can just be verifying that it's correct rather than actually chasing that information, because it should already be there. Really?
Correct.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Another one is interesting that now the ATO are getting information about property sales. So you might sell your own home, but the ATO already have that information. So you still need to report that on your tax return, but you might be using an exemption like your principal place of residence or something like that. So if you don't report that on your tax return and the ATO have that information, then they may follow that up with you in a year's time or in 3 years' time.
So when you're selling a property, particularly, they're already aware of this, and you should be making sure you note it on your return, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah, get your figures right and make sure you've got to include all the costs associated with the sale, which not only your agent's fees, but anything done for preparation of the property, all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so that only becomes relevant if it's a capital gain on the sale. So if it's an investment property.
Fantastic. But there's a lot there, because if you're selling an investment property, it could have been your home at one point, could be an investment, then you need to allocate all those costs back to the property. Yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah. So all costs associated need to be considered. And if you have got a property that was partly your home or your principal residence and then partly for investment, then you certainly need to be talking to your accountant about those dates and getting a timeline and working out what percentage of the property is subject to capital gains tax.
Brilliant. Thank you. And what other good tips have you got for us?
When you're working through your deductions, there's a couple of different categories that we'll be looking at. Motor vehicle travel, we need to remember that we can't claim from home to work travel in most circumstances, but where you're using your motor vehicle to travel to an alternate place of work, or you're taking a trip from your regular place of work to another place of work, then those kilometres need to be tracked. So you can pop them down in a diary throughout the year and then calculate those at the end of the year to claim your motor vehicle deduction. Where you are using your car quite regularly for work purposes, you might create a logbook to track your travel for 15 weeks. And then we can work out what percentage of your total overall costs for your motor vehicle would be related to your work. Only 15 weeks, I keep telling people that logbook, if the travel remains the same, then that logbook will last 5 years.
Oh, okay. So what I find though is whether I'm using an app, there's a million apps now available to do this for you. I don't know if they're any easier than just handwriting in an exercise book, actually.
Sometimes I think that maybe just writing it down is a bit easier.
I know that younger ones are probably finding that easier, but I don't know. Go on. Anyway, what else?
So the other things to think about are any other travel expenses for work. Again, we're not talking about home to work, but if you're traveling on the train or taxis or anything for work related, We might also look at if you're wearing a uniform and a laundry claim. So thinking about protective clothing or uniform, if you've had to purchase any of your uniform or protective clothing, work boots, if you're out and about, you might look at sunglasses and sunscreen, gloves and things like that. Masks is a big one. If you're needing a mask, that's
Wow.
relevant right now.
Virtually everyone should be claiming a mask virtually, couldn't they?
That's right. If you're using your mask to go, if you're needing to buy a mask to go to work, then that mask would be tax deductible. If you are undertaking a course or self-education that's going to result in a pay rise or is just going to help you within your work, we don't look at your original degree. So if you're doing a university degree or something like that to get a job, not tax deductible. But if you're involved in your job and you're doing some self-education for the continuation of your job, then we would look at self-education deduction there. And then there's another category that we would look at where you've got, if you're in a union, your union dues, your professional memberships, your tools, if you're using your own tools on the job and buying those tools, telephone and stationery and things like that.
And also, people now, how are they going about claiming home desks and things if they've had to purchase a lot of that material?
So there's a couple of different ways we can claim home office, and that relates to if you've had a space dedicated to your work or if you're just sitting at your kitchen table. So if you're sitting at your kitchen table, the ATO has released a deduction where you can claim 80 cents per hour, and that covers all of your telephone and your electricity and things like that for all your work related expenses. And then there's a couple of other ways if you have a dedicated space and are regularly working from home.
Okay, great. Well, I'm alternating. So, because it's tricky. No one else is in the office, so I can come in and do recording, but you know, a lot of the time we're still at home, aren't we all at home? So yeah. Dull as in Melbourne at the moment, not our scene at all. And if anyone would like to contact you for further assistance, how would they best do that?
So it's best to email Rebecca at alaco.com.au and we can have a chat, or details on my website, which is Alaco.
I'll add your website to the notes, so no question. I'll put your website there because it's got a really cool, easy way to book time with you. Yes. Which I really like, because that's a great way to connect with people. It just makes life a bit easier, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
No phone tag when you've got an appointment.
Yeah, exactly. When you're in and out of appointments all day, it's too hard sometimes to then stop and, you know, arrange another one. So it's great. Well done. Thank you. Is there any final word you'd give people to tell them for tax in 2020? What's the best thing to do?
I guess the really important thing at the moment in 2020 is to keep in touch with your accountant, especially if you're in business. So you should have a really good relationship so that you can pick up the phone and chat to your accountant if you've got any questions or anything like that. Really important, especially in 2020.
Great. Super duper. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And we will be in touch soon. Thanks again.
Thanks, Louise. Bye.
Bye.